All right, I have a couple of announcements to make. I do see some new faces, so welcome. My name is Lisa, I'm the director, along with Sally, Activities, Gail, Outreach, Pat, our chef, Marianne, our van driver, and our students from Our Lady of the Valley are volunteering today. Thank you very much. We also have Nancy, our volunteer, Vin, and Millie. Oh, there you are. We also have Cecile is on the phones. There she is. We appreciate our volunteers. So I have a couple of announcements. Of course, next Friday, November 11th, we are closed for Veterans Day, but we appreciate our veterans. Thank you very much for your service, those that are here today. Absolutely. Also, on Friday, November 11th, even though the Senior Center is closed, it will be open from 9 to 10:30 a.m. The Uxbridge High School Student Council will be serving coffee and donuts. So for our veterans, you're certainly welcome to come down and get to talk to the students. And it should be a well-attended event. We have that displayed on the town website and on our Facebook page as well. And I've already heard from some folks that are definitely coming. No. Friday, November 18th, the Uxbridge High School Drama Club has invited us to go to a dress rehearsal for their play. There's a sign-up sheet on the board. You can sign up, either meet us there at the high school, or you can drive in the van, and that is a free lunch as well. So you're certainly welcome to that. What time is it? 9?
It starts at 10.
It starts at 10.
So I'll be there
Okay.
for like 9:30.
Yeah.
And be down here at what time if we come in?
Be at the school for 9:30.
Or
Yeah, but come here, I'd say come here around 9.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We have, of course, our chief again for Lunch and Learn. Thank you very much. And we'll be introducing our speaker. All right, so let's do a moment of silence before lunch, please. Thank you. Enjoy your lunch.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming to another Lunch and Learn. I'm Chief Montminy. Thank you for being here, and we have a great program for you today. But before we get into our program, I want to give you a couple of announcements. The first is we have a food drive going on tomorrow at Hannaford's, 10 to 2. So if anybody gets an opportunity to come down, we'll be there. We'll be accepting all kinds of food and cash donations if you want to do that. So make a point of it if you can. The second thing is, let's see, Veterans Day, right? It's coming up. Yes. We're going to have a short parade. That starts off at 2 o'clock, I believe. So keep those things in mind. And today I want to introduce our guest speaker. It's Chris Murphy. He's from the Massachusetts State 911 Department. And he works in the distribution program for their equipment. And the program provides adaptive telephone equipment to people who have difficulty using landlines or wireless telephones due to issues such as hearing loss or vision loss. So please give him your attention, and if anyone needs any of this kind of equipment, he'll be sticking around for a few minutes after his speech so you can talk to him one-on-one, and I believe applications are already handed out. Okay, thank you.
Hello, can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Can you still hear me? All right, I better use this? All right, I will. My name's Chris Murphy. Thank you for having me here today. I work for the state of Massachusetts. I work for the 911 department. And so we're the part of the state that when there's an emergency and people need to dial 911, they get the help that they need. Most people know about 911, right? That, you know, you can get the police or the fire, the ambulance if you have an emergency. But there's a couple of things about 911 that I want to talk about that you might not be familiar with, that are sort of kind of new. One of them is called a silent call procedure. And a silent call is something for 911 that if you dial 911 and you are not able to speak for whatever reason, you can be asked questions that you can answer yes or no by pressing the buttons on your phone. So if you're having a medical issue and you can't talk, if you're a person who has no speech in the first place, or God forbid there's somebody in your house and you're hiding and you're not able to talk, you can dial 911 and they will start to ask you questions. Do you need help? Press 1 if you need help, and you press 1 on your phone, and they will be able to communicate with you that way. When you dial 911, they already know where you are, where you're calling from, so they can get the help out there to you even if you don't talk to them. But with the silent call procedure, they can get even more information before they arrive at the scene. So we wanted to talk about that. The other thing is that you can now text to 911 if you have a cell phone. So if you're, if you're out and about and you have a cell phone and for whatever reason you need to text to 911 instead of calling, you can now do that. That's a new thing that hasn't always been available. So, I did want to mention those features of 911. But what I'm really here to talk about today is a program we have called the Massachusetts Equipment Distribution Program, Mass EDP. And what I do is we provide free telephone equipment for anybody in Massachusetts that has any kind of difficulty using the phone for any reason. We work with people that are hard of hearing, low vision, blind, cognitive, motion, speech, anything that you can think of that gives people trouble using a phone. We have equipment that we give away for free so that people can use the phone more easily. The idea is that everybody can access 911, even if you're deaf, even if you're blind, even if you're not able to use your fingers to operate a telephone, you can get the help that you need to. That's why the state pays for this program, and that's why it's free for most people that are in it. But really, what it does, most people don't have to dial 911 very often. So it allows you to stay in touch with your friends and your family, make doctor's appointments, get rides to places and things like that. It just makes using the phone a lot easier. We have cell phones and we have landline phones. So the cell phones that we have, I didn't bring those with me, but we have smartphones, they're iPhones. And so we provide iPhones to people that have different difficulties using the phone. We do not provide the phone service. So you have to pay for your phone service, whether it's a cell phone or whether it's a landline. We don't provide the service, but what we do provide is the equipment that will work on your service that you already have. So, cell phones are in the program, and I'm just going to touch on them because primarily what we work with are landlines. Phones that plug into a phone jack at home and that you can use while you're home. I want to talk about the application process to get into this program. The young ladies were nice enough to help me pass out some stuff to all of you, and in the white envelope is the application. You don't have to get it out. I'm going to talk about it. It's very simple. On the first page, it asks you about your personal information, things like your name, your address, your phone number, and things like that. You do have to include a copy of your phone bill when you send this in. And the reason for that is so that we can confirm that you have that phone service that we talked about, whether it's cell phone or landline. Now, my telephone service comes from the cable company. It comes from Charter, Spectrum. So if that's the case for you, you just include the first page of your cable bill with this, okay? It also asks you on here about an authorized person to talk to. So if there's somebody in your life that helps you out with things, like making appointments or making decisions, and you want us to be able to talk to them on your behalf, we need your permission to do that. And so there's a part on this application where you can write down a family member or a social worker or something like that that's going to help you with anything. And then on the bottom of the page, it asks you about your income. And I came here and I already told you that this is a free program, and for most people it is. But there is an income cap of $50,000 a year, where if your income, not your assets, but your income is higher than $50,000 a year, you can still be in this program, but you have a one-time copay. And the copay works out to be 1/3 of the price of whatever equipment you get. So they all cost different amounts. Usually it's about $30 or $40. You pay that once and then you don't pay that again. But all you do is check out on the application, yes, my income is higher than $50,000, I have a copay, or no, it's not, and everything is free. After you fill this out, you're going to bring this to a doctor, and your doctor is going to fill out the inside of this form. This can be any licensed doctor in Massachusetts. It can be your primary care doctor, which is usually the easiest thing to do, but it could also be a specialist like an audiologist, an ophthalmologist, a speech pathologist. Anybody that has ologist at the end of their name can usually sign this form.
Gynecologist?
Well, maybe that's a good question. I haven't gotten that one before. But your doctor's going to fill out the inside of this form, and at the bottom of the doctor's page is the most important part of this whole thing. So if you only remember one thing that I'm going to say today, I want it to be this. At the bottom of the doctor's page, there are 8 boxes that correspond to the different disability categories that we have in this program. Hard of hearing, deaf, low vision, blind, cognitive, motion, speech, and deafblind together. The reason that that is so important is because all of the phones that I have get passed out to you based on what you get qualified for. So if you're hard of hearing and low vision, but you only get hearing checked off, it's going to limit the choices that we have to get you the equipment that's going to work the best for you. So what you want to do is make sure your doctor checks off everything that applies to you, even if it's just a little bit. Okay? After you fill this out and your doctor signs it, there's an envelope inside the package, and you're going to send it to one of 2 places, depending on which boxes you get checked off. If you send it to the wrong place, don't worry about it. They're going to send it to the right place. It's just going to take a little bit longer. But generally, it takes about a month to go through all the various channels before you'll get a phone call saying you've been approved for the program, and we'll figure out how to get you the equipment. We can do it a couple of ways. We can send it to you in the mail. If you're a do-it-yourself kind of person and you're comfortable, plugging things in and programming buttons, we can just send it to you. But what I would suggest to you is that you get something called a home visit, where somebody like myself would come out to where you live. We'd bring the equipment with us, we'd set it up for you, we'd show you how to work it, and we'd program all the buttons so that when I leave, you're all set. You don't have to worry about whether or not it's programmed correctly or if you're using it the right way, because we'll know that it is. And that's all free. That's all part of this program. I'm not here to sell anything. That's the best part about my job, is there's no shoes that are going to drop at the end of this presentation. All of this stuff is included in the program. It's paid for by your taxes. If you look on your phone bill, there's a tax on the bill every month that says 911/disability. And it's about $1.25 a month. And that's what pays for the 911 system, and that's what pays for disability access. This program is part of that disability access. So that, that's why you've been paying into it, and if you can use it, we want you to be able to do that. So I brought some equipment with me here today to talk about, and I didn't bring everything that we have, because there's just too much stuff, but I brought a little bit of everything to talk about and give you an idea about what kinds of things we have in this program and how it might be able to help you. When I'm talking about the phones, I don't want anybody to worry about specific things like decibel levels or model numbers or anything like that. That's my job, and I need this job very badly. So I will help you figure that out once we get into the program. But what I do want you to think about are things that you like about the phones, things that might help you. And what I mean by that is some of the phones are portable that you can move around with, some of them aren't. Some of them work better with hearing aids and some of them don't. Some of them have caller ID, which will tell you who's calling you, and some of them don't. Those are the kind of things that you need to think about to realize, that might be able to help me, and I got to be sure to ask about that once they call me to tell me I'm in the program. Does that make sense so far?
Yes.
Everybody with me?
Yeah.
All right. So the biggest group of people that I work with are people that are hard of hearing, people that don't hear as well as they used to, or if they had a phone that they could make louder, everything would be fine. Most phones you can adjust the volume, but you can only do that to a certain extent. These are called amplified phones, which means they get loud to a certain level. A regular phone that you have at home is about 12 decibels. And this phone here will go up to 50 decibels. So it's almost 5 times louder than a regular phone. To me, that's so loud that if I turn it up and I hold it out like this, it sounds like there's somebody standing next to me talking to me. So if you do have hearing loss and you put it up to your ear and you turn up the volume, you're going to be able to hear what they're saying to you. And that's, sometimes as simple as it gets, that you just need something that's a little bit louder. It's completely adjustable so that you can go anywhere between the regular volume and the 55 decibels. There's these little arrows on the phone that make it go up and down. Believe it or not, they can get too loud. And if they're too loud, they're hard to understand. So we want to get you a phone that's loud enough that you can hear, but then get it set so that you can understand it as well. It's very simple. It's just got the numbers and the arrows on it to change the volume, but a lot of people like that. A lot of people don't want the bells and the whistles. They just want to pick the phone up, talk on it, and put it back down. Another phone that I have for people that are hearing impaired is this one, and this is just as loud as the one I just showed you, but this has some other things to it as well, because hearing loss is not just about volume. People that when they experience their hard of hearing, there are other things that go with that. One of those things is tone or pitch of the person's voice. It's very common to be able to understand, to hear what somebody's saying, but not be able to understand what they're saying because the pitch of their voice is, you're not able to hear it. If you've ever gotten a hearing test, it's like a curve. And if your hearing is good, that curve is right in the middle of the paper. But if you have tone loss, that curve is on one side or the other because you can't hear either the high tone or the low tone. With this phone, we can adjust not only the volume, but also the tone or the pitch so that you can understand what people are saying to you better. Does anybody here have hearing aids? There's got to be a couple of them.
Come on, guys, put your hands up. We all know you got them.
So hearing aids can be difficult with the phone. A lot of times people put the phone up to their ear. If you're wearing your hearing aid, you get feedback, like a whistling sound, or sometimes people say it sounds like somebody's talking in a tunnel. These phones, certain phones are compatible with your hearing aids. There's something inside of it called a T-coil, and a T-coil is basically a magnet that's in the phone, and you've got another magnet in your hearing aid. So when you put the receiver up to your hearing aid, those two magnets link up, and it cuts out the feedback. You don't get the whistling sound. You don't get the tunnel sound. You can understand what people are saying if you're wearing your hearing aids. Sometimes people tell me, I need to take my hearing aid out to use the phone, and then, obviously I don't hear it as well. And, not only that, but if you take your hearing aid out, you put it down, you have your conversation, you go about your business for the rest of the day, and then all of a sudden, you're like, where's my hearing aid? And that's a whole other mess I can't help you with. But what we can do is we can get you a phone that you don't have to take your hearing aid out in the first place. It's very compatible if you're wearing it. However, not everybody wears their hearing aid all the time. So if you're home and you're not wearing your hearing aid, it's going to get loud enough that you can hear it even without it. Okay? These phones are also available in portable phones. So, everything that I've been talking about so far has been stationary phones. They've got the curly cords that connect the receiver to the base. A portable phone is not a cell phone. You can't take this down to the store, but there's no cord on it. You can move around your house with it. You can bring it to different rooms. If you're watching TV, you can set it down on the table next to you and not have to jump up and run across the house when the phone rings. It's already right there. So, portable phones are pretty common. A lot of you probably already have them. And this is not a lot different than what you have, except for it's got all of those hearing qualities, the volume, the tone adjustment, the pitch adjustment, and the hearing aid compatibility. The other really cool thing about this phone is that it's got a slow button on it. And when you push that slow button, it literally slows down the person's voice that you're talking to. So if somebody's talking to you on the phone and they're talking too fast and you're not understanding what they're saying, you press that button and it puts a little bit of space in between their words. It slows them down and you can understand it better. I'm not sure how it works, but it does work. It's pretty cool. Besides the hearing qualities, a lot of these phones cross over into multiple disability categories. So this is also very good for people that have low vision. The buttons on this phone I know are not huge, but for portable phones they're pretty good. They're pretty big, they're pretty bright. There's a contrast, the white on the black. This is a talking phone, which means that when you press the buttons, it talks to you, and it tells you what buttons you've pushed. So, if you're low vision and you don't know what numbers you're dialing, if you're not sure and you're getting the wrong number, this phone will tell you as you're dialing the buttons that you've pushed. So if you made a mistake, you can address that. It's also got a talking caller ID. And caller ID is a service that you have to pay for from your phone company. I'm not trying to sell anybody caller ID. If you have that service, when your phone rings, it'll tell you who's calling you before you answer the phone. This has a talking caller ID, so if you're not able to see that little screen, but you're paying for that service, you can still utilize it. So it's pretty good for that as well. And obviously for the motion, you don't have to run up and run over to your phone to use it. Here's another phone that we use for people that are low vision or legally blind. This phone has the biggest numbers I've ever seen on a phone. I've never seen a phone with bigger buttons. Has anybody ever seen it? You can see it, yeah. Has anybody ever seen that movie Gran Torino with Clint Eastwood? Yeah. So his kids give him this phone in that movie, which I thought was pretty cool. Next time you watch it, you can check it out. But you know, these buttons are very big. It comes in 2 different versions. It's got the black buttons with the white numbers, and it also comes with white buttons with black numbers. Some people see the other way around better. The buttons are big, they've got Braille on them. So people that are blind that can read Braille can figure out what button they're pushing just by feeling that Braille. And it's also a talking phone, so when they're dialing the numbers, it tells them what numbers they push. We can record speed dial into these phones, and we can add names that go along with that. So when you use the speed dial, it will say the name of the person that you're calling before it calls them. And if it's who you want to call, great. But if it's not, you can hang up and you can get the right person before you get connected. So it just helps you get that confirmation.
You'll get it. I'll make sure.
Here's a phone that we use for people that have different cognitive difficulties, things like Alzheimer's or dementia or something like that. This phone works just like any other phone, but it's got these pictures at the top of the phone. And what each of these pictures is a speed dial button that we program your friends or family into the phone. That way, like if I want to call my daughter, but I can't remember what my daughter's name is, all I have to do is find her picture and push it, and I can call and get the people that I want to call. It does have the volume control, it does have the bigger buttons, but really what makes it special is the pictures. You can do the photo dial. Has anybody ever seen one of these things before? Yep, a couple of you have. What does it look like? Looks like a typewriter. This is a typewriter. It's called a teletypewriter or a TTY. And this is for people that are either severely hard of hearing, completely deaf, or for people that are not able to speak. The way this works is that if I'm using this and I'm talking to one of you, there's an operator in between us. And everything that you say to me, the operator prints out on the screen, and I can read what you're saying. So if I'm really hard of hearing and none of the other phones, I can't hear them, or if I'm completely deaf, I can still read what you're saying to me on the phone. Then when I want to talk back to you, I type what I want to say, and the operator reads what I type, and they talk to you so that you can, hear my words. So if I'm not able to speak on the phone, I can communicate by typing. That service, the relay service, the operator, is also a free service, and it's 24/7, 365 days a year. So, there's always somebody there to help you get that relay information. The problem about this phone is that it's kind of an old technology, and there's some drawbacks to it. One of them is that the screen is very small. So if you're low vision, you might have a hard time reading what's on the screen. It also works like when you're watching the news and you see the weather on the bottom of the screen and it goes across the TV. That's how the words work on here. So when you're reading it, once they're gone, they're gone. So you have to be a pretty quick reader to use it. And then the last thing is that not everybody is a great typer. So if you have an entire conversation where you're trying to find one letter after another, it's telling me I gotta be quiet. It can take a long time. So they've come out with some new stuff. And this is one of those phones. This is called a caption phone or a CapTel. And it's the same idea. If I'm using this and I'm talking to you, there's an operator in between us relaying everything that you say onto this screen so I can read it. The screen is a lot bigger, so I can make the words bigger, but also it can hold a lot more lines before they disappear. And it's all digital, so I can actually go back and see something I missed. If I'm making a doctor's appointment and they give me a time and I forget what time it is, I can go back into the phone and figure that out. But probably the best thing about this is that you don't have to type. If you're able to speak, you just talk right back to the person and they hear your voice, but you're still able to read what they're saying to you. So they've made some improvements on it. I've got one more phone that I want to talk about, and this is a very special phone. We don't give out a lot of these, but I always bring it and I always talk about it. This is a speakerphone for people that are very, very limited with their motion. This is for people that are not able to get up and go to a phone, for people that are not able to hold a phone in their hand, or for people that are not able to push buttons on a phone. Anything that I can do with this speakerphone, I can do with this remote control right here. And this remote control is all one button. So if I'm in bed over here, and my phone's plugged in over there, and I'm not able to get out of bed, and my phone rings, I click this button and it turns my phone on. It's a speakerphone so I can hear it even when I'm not next to it. And there's a microphone inside the remote so I don't have to yell at it. I just talk and it picks up my voice. When I'm done with my conversation, I click it again and it hangs it up. When I set it up for people, I program it with the names and the numbers of people that they call, and they get saved in the phone. When I want to call somebody, I click the button and it starts going through my list automatically. When I get down to the one that I want to call, I click it again and it dials for me. And then when I'm done with my conversation, I click it again to hang it up. Now some people are limited with their motion where they're not even able to click that button. And so for them there are attachments that go with it. One of them is like a little pillow that's like the size of a soup can, and they can bump it with their arm. Other people pin it onto their shirt and they hit it with their chin. And just by doing that, they can operate the remote, which operates the telephone. Other people aren't even able to do that, and for them there's a straw that they can blow into. And just by blowing into a straw, they can make their phone work. So, like I said, it's very special. We don't give out a lot of these, but I always bring it and I always want you to understand that no matter what trouble you have using the phone, whether all you need is something that's a little bit louder or has bigger buttons, or if the only thing that you can do is to blow into a straw, we have equipment that can help you. This program is not just for people that are quote-unquote disabled. Sometimes I come and I do these talks and I say that word and people back up and they say, you know, this sounds like a great program, but it's not for me. I'm not blind, I'm not deaf, I'm not in a wheelchair. This is for anybody that has any kind of difficulty using the phone at all. If you can hear on the phone and you can talk to everybody, but then you talk to your grandkids and you can't understand them, we want you to have this phone. If you can see the buttons all the time except for at night when you take your glasses off and then you can't see the buttons anymore, we have phones that we want you to have. So you do not have to be 80% blind or 60% deaf or 30% motion impaired. If this is going to help you, we want you to have it. I will stay up here for a few minutes. I'm happy to answer any specific questions. My time is up, but I appreciate you guys listening and learning about this today. Thank you.